This is Goku-san DBZ, and welcome back for a new top 10 list. Been a while since I've done, since the last few have been top 20s. With that said, this time we are looking at soundtracks. This time we are looking at, from my perspective and recommendations, 10 superb horror themed soundtracks. Now, with that said, not strictly just survival horror, but games with elements of horror, whether it be horror themed through the creature designs and other aesthetics, with suspense and elements of horror at time to time. With that said, honorable mentions first, in my opinion. The first, originally on the PS3, The Last of Us. Also, the soundtrack some people don't give it credit for, but it gets an honorable mention for me. Demon's Souls for the PS3. Also, played on Xbox One as well as on PS4. A great indie game, has a very good eeriness sound and a factor to it, though it's more of a platformer. That being Limbo. And the last is actually a PC game. Um, though it's more of a shooter, it definitely has heavy influences of horror in it, predominantly since you have the invasion of hell basically in England. And that of the last honorable mention goes to Hellgate London. If you've never actually checked out the game Hellgate London, give it a check out, as you can find the game relatively affordable, as I picked up the collector's edition back like a year or so ago for $15, so yeah, get the game very affordable, very reasonable, and it's a very interesting game. With that said, coming in at number 10 for the PlayStation 3, this game really does truly, it's a great first person shooter, but at the forefront is its horror and its environment. And the music plays a key role to that, as most great horror themed games. But for me, at number 10 is Dead Space 1. There's definitely a very heavy eeriness factor and creepiness to the Dead Space series, though. The third game went much more action. Yeah, the first game had quite a bit of action, and arguably Dead Space 2, in my opinion, is the creepiness and my personal favorite of the series. But with that said, still, music wise, I actually think Dead Space 1, this is where the first game actually excels, is in the music department. At number 9, played specifically on the original Xbox, is a very interesting, more of a puzzle investigation type game. Lots of good suspense, and the music really adds an extra element to the game itself. It is very creepy, sound effects and everything. And that is where this game excels. For me, coming at number 9 is Still Life, as you predominantly investigate like dead bodies and stuff, and the music really helps the atmosphere of the game big time. Coming in next at number 8, it's a game probably some people don't think, but it definitely has a very heavy um, horror theme to the actual game itself, and definitely a lot of creepy moments throughout the game. Coming in at number 8, which I think does have a great soundtrack overall, though I played originally on actually the collection of the Orange Box, though in recent time I got to play it actually in its original version on original Xbox. Still, soundtrack is amazing. Coming at number 8 is Half-Life 2. People don't seem to always talk about the storytelling and aspects of Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1, but I think the music does not get enough credit, in my opinion. Coming in at number 7, only played it on Xbox as the PS2 version, is Far Too Expensive. Now, if you like good punk rock and stuff of the late 90s, early 2000s, you would probably enjoy the music. It has also some great creepy eerie music as well, besides having some great bombastic music, as some of the music was done by Sum 41, which is probably one of the best bands of that era, and a great Canadian band. Um, but for me, coming at number 7 is Obscure. Very good, very high difficulty horror game at that. But it definitely has the teenage angst and everything of the time period perfectly, but also adds in some proper horror-themed music also to the environment, which helps the game, I think, get and add onto the creepiness factor. Coming in at number 6, definitely has a great eeriness to music. Not as much truly horror, but very much build up of the momentum and the atmosphere that you're surrounded by the dark, eeriness in the mystery of what's behind the corner. And a lot of creepy creatures, but also a lot of great action as well. This is a great creepy action game. Best way to put it. Based on the comic book with the same name. Only played this in the 360, and that is coming at 6 is The Darkness. Based on a great comic book series of the 90s. No surprise, I loved it given being such a big Spawn fan, and there was also multiple crossovers with Spawn as well as Witchblade, thanks to Top Cow Comics. But with that said, coming at number 5 is more of a traditional like RPG action adventure, but definitely a very heavy, creepy, and medieval aesthetic and atmosphere, the dread with the great classical music used. But for me personally, coming in at number 5 is Dark Souls 3. Because, seriously, Dark Souls 3 soundtrack is superb compared to the first two Dark Souls games. They really did add a lot into the music. Coming in at number 4 for me, played on Xbox as well as PS2, predominantly PS2. But for me, coming at number 4 is Silent Hill 4, The Room. As I've said before, Silent Hill series is easily maybe the best horror franchise, I think, overall when it comes to music perspective, with the exception of a few of the later games, like, it's one of the areas I do have some issues with Downpour, though overall I like Downpour as a game. The music is a bit more questionable, but still, Silent Hill 4 The Room has some great music, great eeriness, as well as some great rock music mixed in. It gives you a mixture of tones and feels, and that's perfect because of what some of the characters are like in Silent Hill 4 The Room, as it is a much more unique Silent Hill experience compared to any others. And maybe that's why I love Silent Hill 4 so much, as it is in my top 3 favorite Silent Hill games. Speaking of next, coming at number 3, I originally only played on PS1, though I never got a chance to play it on the sadly Dreamcast, which I would have liked, as well as never played it on the N64. With that said, coming at number 3 with arguably my favorite soundtrack of the Resident Evil franchise is easily coming at number 3, Resident Evil 2. Because the music for the police station, everything, I mean, that is easily, for me, music-wise, I think Resident Evil 2 is the peak of the music. Now, coming at number 2, only played on PS4, another game in the Soul series. Coming at number 2, definitely the music helps big time, as the time period it really feels like it's taking place in like the 1800s. 1800s, very gothic, very much H.P. Lovecraft inspired with the gothic architecture, definitely the creature designs. Definitely some of the creatures are definitely heavily influenced by beings such as Cthulhu and many others. For me, though, in my opinion, the best soundtrack of the Soul series goes to number 2, Bloodborne. Coming at number 1 is really no surprise. The music in the background, been playing from arguably, in my opinion, is the single greatest survival horror soundtrack of all time and horror-themed game of all time. The music is amazing, and I still listen to this all the time. Heck, I even got a digital copy on my phone to listen to. That's how much I love this soundtrack. For me, coming in at number 1 is the soundtrack for Silent Hill 2, which played on PS2 as well as original Xbox, though it's called Restless Memories. But with that said, that is it. That is, for me, 10 of my personal favorite horror game soundtracks So, with that said, what are some of your personal favorite? And do you agree with me that Silent Hill has truly some of the greatest music of any horror game ever? Do you agree that also things like, say, Half-Life 2 has an underrated soundtrack? Or the great background music and stuff in like Bloodborne or The Darkness and many other things. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and stay safe out there in YouTube land.